All right, and we are live for the Steelers Depot live stream here on Monday, July 20th. Let me pull up the link to talk to you guys and get this chat started. And we already have 12 people in the chat. We have Steeler fan, Samantha, Wes, Mutated Genome, and Mark are all here, and Dave Bryant is also here. Dave, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Greetings and salutations to everybody here already. What started off as a slow day ended up having a little bit of news involved in it that we'll talk about today
Yeah, we'll start off
or
with it.
tonight.
Again, we'll be here for the next hour from 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern, Monday, as Dave and I always are. So feel free to leave your Steelers questions in the chat. Greg Smith says, Alex, what's up, my dude? Hey, Greg, before we get to the news of the day, Mutated Genome does start off with a question here about AB related news. Shouldn't AB just retire? If he does, would you please remind me how much he lost when he was fired by the Raiders? I don't even remember the answer to that second part of the question, and I don't really trust this AB retirement news. Man, I don't think you do either, Dave.
No. I don't believe much of anything that comes out of his mouth. To be honest with you, we'll sit back and he definitely made the news cycle churn up there on Twitter for a little bit today, and we'll see what happens long term here. I'm willing to bet that if he was, think things work out, that he can gets reinstated or what have you, gets past whatever, maybe punishment or all that stemming from what happened last season and all like that, if a team was to call him and offer him a deal, I'm willing to bet that retirement will end real quick. I really believe it with these players like this if they file the retirement papers. So we'll have to wait and see if that happens.
Yeah, and my guess is that it's probably not an AB. I don't know. Who knows with AB right now? Steel SV says, Alex, check your mic. You sound too nasal. Well, I always sound nasal, but hopefully it sounds a little bit better right now. Samantha says, hey, Dave and Alex. Hey, Samantha.
Hello, Samantha. Hello, everybody.
Josh Reno is asking about the news of the day with Christian Scotland Williamson, the tight end, former rugby player. The Steelers announced he has been waived, and Davis, you found out a little bit later he's been waived and put through the NFI, non-football injury list of things, which is pretty broad terms you can be put on that list. So question is, why would they waive him? Either he asked for his release because he probably wanted to go home, or more likely, I think he got hurt at some point in the training process in the lead up to training camp.
Yeah, the official. I had to wait till the official move came across the NFL sheet this afternoon, and it was kind of sudden and out of the blue today, and it listed him a non-football injury designation. Now, it does not get any more descriptive other than that. So it appears as though there may have been an injury, and we can only speculate. But look, both of his parents, I think, dealt with COVID-19
pretty severely too.
Yeah, earlier this off season, and look, I mean, just on his Instagram, throughout the last couple of weeks, there have been videos of him, doing some balancing drills and juggling and all like that. And of course, there was the interview, I think, with the Steelers. Who was it? The pastor, the Steelers team chaplain, or
yeah.
That I sent you guys the link to about I don't know about 3 weeks ago, and it looked like he was gearing up for the season there. So we can only speculate right now, and that's obviously dangerous to do. But the fact that he was listed with a non-injury, non-football injury designation, you would tend to believe that he was dealing with an injury of some sort, and thus the waiving today.
Yeah, unfortunate for him. Kudos to him, though. I mean, he wasn't even supposed to be a rugby guy, right? I think that he said that in that interview. That just kind of rugby happened by chance. The NFL happened by chance. So kudos to him for trying it. He did improve from his rookie year to his second year, as you would expect, but it was not going to be enough to make the 53, and probably not even for the practice squad. And as RMC asked, did CSW still have a roster exemption? I'm pretty sure he did not, because they were at 90, and because right after releasing Scotland Williamson, they signed Dax Raymond, which would also indicate there was not a free spot available. So I think the player international pathway program had ended, and so I think he was going to have to be just a regular 90 guy this year.
Yeah, look, I mean, with all that's transpired this offseason, obviously it was going to be incredibly tough for him to make the roster, and his best shot was probably a practice squad shot at best there. So we wish him the best and all, and we'll see what we'll obviously follow the news with him and see what happens from here on out. But in all likelihood, I mean, it sounds like his NFL career might be over with now.
Yeah, I think so. Kay Cabrera says, didn't Ian Rappaport tweet about a former Bears tight end signing with the Steelers? Yep, that's on the page right now. Dax Raymond from Utah State. Do have a scouting report on him you guys can check out as well that Daniel had written about. I think Raymond is, as you said before we got on the live stream, Dave, a better prospect than Scotty. And so, again, will he have an opportunity? The chances are slim, but I think he's a better prospect than Scotland Williamson.
I think he's a better prospect as well, and kudos to our own Daniel Valente for what you can do. It's so great when these signings like this happens. Right. Like we could go search on the site real quick, and lo and behold, there is a draft profile that Daniel had done on him. I think last January, a year ago, January.
His first one for 2019. So good choice, Daniel.
Yeah, Daniel's on top. He's come a long way, hasn't he?
He sure has.
Daniel really has. Look, I mean, he's a must follow on Twitter. Developed into a great football mind. He spent time with you down there at the Senior Bowl. Just kudos to him, and he really his write up helped jog my memory about Dax Raymond as well too. A guy that. Look, I mean, he can play every tight end H-back spot as well too. Can play attached to the line of scrimmage, can play detached. I seem to remember his blocking kind of being hit or miss, if you will. I hate to use the pun there, but I think he was even a Senior Bowl. Wasn't he at the Senior Bowl?
That sounds about right. I didn't go 2 years ago, so I wouldn't have been there, but I believe you're right.
Right, and I think had kind of an up and down performance there at the Senior Bowl, if memory serves me, and I think had a better second to last 2017 season, I guess it would have been, than it would have been 2018 season with Utah State there. An intriguing guy. And the way I look at this, Alex, and I'm sure you will agree with me, even though look, I mean, how much further behind can he be everybody else?
That's a good point.
Yeah. Right.
Just needs
now,
the Zoom password and he's caught up.
Right. Now, other than that, I think it at least gives you a little bit better quality tight end at the bottom of the depth chart to help push a guy like Zach Gentry. So you're always looking from push from the bottom up there. I don't really think Kevin Rader is that guy, but I think Dax Raymond can be a guy that potentially pushes from the bottom up, and now we'll see. Probably a decent shot to land on the practice squad, or as good as anybody really at the tight end position there. So not a bad signing overall, and I'm sure you and I will dive deeper into his tape here in this coming week.
Yeah, we will. And yeah, I mean, you want to have Kevin Rader get pushed too, because he was really the only other tight end on the roster along with Scotty. And now with Scotty gone, you had to bring somebody else in. And with COVID concerns and, of course, McDonald's and Ebron's injury history, there's a lot of reasons to believe tight end depth could get depleted at some point here before the season starts. You want to be as well insulated as possible. Not saying that Raymond's going to really seriously compete for the 53, but you do need to have depth there. And yeah, Rader's kind of known for that inline blocker type. I think Raymond's a little bit more of a receiver type, so it's good kind of mix to get both guys at the back end of the roster.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, going through some questions here. Pablo Martinez asked a few minutes ago, hello, guys. Quick question. I watched the Fitzpatrick video on Game Pass, and it was 3 minutes long. Was it the whole show, or did I miss something? Yeah, it was weird. I think there was a preview part, and you had to find the link somewhere else. The whole thing, 17, 20 minutes or so. So there is a much longer version than that. Pablo, I can't direct you exactly where it's at, but just click around a little bit. Game Pass is not the most user-friendly website in the world, but there is a much longer video than the 3-minute preview that you watched. David O, our very own David O, I assume, says, I love the train horn. You are Army of One there, David, because I sure do not. Wes Hickok is here again. Thank you, Wes. Big question I have is sort of looking to the future. Do you think Watt's potential contract could have negative ripples on the rest of the roster? On all things contract related, I defer to you, Dave. I'll do the same here.
Negative ripples. His market value is his market value. You have to look at each player and what their market value is, and whether or not the Steelers are going to do something with them. And it is what it is. We've talked about that. Talked about it, I think, on one of the shows last week there with the Myles Garrett signing at $25 million per year. To me, that essentially is the starting point, the floor when it comes to Watt. Now, here's the thing about Watt that I think everybody probably needs to understand is a Watt deal is probably not going to happen until roughly about a year from now. I would be surprised really if they have Watt extended by the time training camp starts next year. It makes sense. And generally what happens with these guys is they get them into training camp, and then that's when the real heavier negotiations going on. Now, there's nothing that says they can't sign him to an extension. Prior to that, it seems to be the Steelers' MO, especially with these guys on fifth-year options, which he'll obviously be on. There's not going to be, I don't think, a rush to do that. Especially, we'll see what the ends up, what the cap ends up being and all like that. But I don't see any other, negative aspects of it other than you just have to pay the guy,
right.
And we'll have to see, next up is probably Bosa at some point going to probably get paid. And then we'll see what happens early on in free agency in next March and April to see if any edge rushers, crack that 25 million number that Myles Garrett has out there. But I would expect Watt to come in somewhere along the lines of, I don't know, anywhere between 26 and maybe knocking on the $30 million door before it's all said and done when it comes to new money average. Now, here's the other thing to consider as well, too. When and if they do get T.J. Watt signed to an extension next year, his cap hit, usually those first-year cap hits are a little bit more, a little bit lower, and I would expect that to be the case with him. So, negative ripples, other than you just have to pay the guy his market value, really nothing other than that.
Yeah, and Wes's follow-up was, to be clear, I'm 100% in favor of his market value, just curious what could it do to the rest of the roster. So he's basically just asking, will that prevent them from not being able to sign somebody because they want to do the deal with Watt? What would your response to that be, Dave?
You mean a free agent or something? Is that what he's getting at?
Maybe both, probably more in-house guys, I assume. But I think it's also important to point out because the timeline that you're laying out is probably not till after sometime in the training camp next year. You've already gone through this wave of all the free agents to be from this season for the upcoming off season. So they'll have some time to sort that stuff out. Watt will come after the Jujus and the Villanuevas of the world.
Right, and look, they'll obviously have it in their planner that has to be part of what gets done. But and look, I mean, we're still waiting to see what's going to happen with the cap next year. Is it going to be flat? Will there indeed be some sort of a reduction? I mean, it's not going to prevent the Steelers from signing Watt because they might have to change the way they normally do deals.
Right.
All what we saw happen with the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes and Chris Jones this year. Now, even that would be kind of newsworthy because Steelers just don't do deals that way, and it's hard to imagine a guy like Watt unless you, like I said, you guarantee the first 3 full years of him foregoing the early contract cash flow, which normally Steelers contracts do have. So long and short of it, there, Wes, I don't foresee any issues here.
All right, there you go. Again, Dave and I are here till 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Be sure to ask any Steelers questions you guys have. Let me pull up the link to the article I just clicked on because it is another piece of Steelers news. The Week 1 against the Giants. Steelers on the road will not have any fans, barring any sort of crazy change in circumstance here. So just a little heads up there for you guys. Go back to the questions. Let's see. WhiteMex98. What does an improvement you saw that was good with Washington last year and what's something to look forward to this year where he might be better? I think the first thing with James Washington, and this is something I can't really see as clearly as the players who talked about, but everybody talked about conditioning. He was in much better shape in year 2 than he was as a rookie, which is expected. He was more versatile. He was able to play and move around the formation, play the X, the Z, the F position, and he just wasn't confined to one side of the field the way he was at Oklahoma State. He was a more physical guy. He was better using his hands to defeat press coverage. He was more physical in his route stem, and he was better at the top of the route as well. And all those things, I think, combined made him a much more consistent player and a much better vertical threat that this team needed him to be and continues to need him to be. So all those things for Washington. In terms of where he has to get better, just probably continue to prove to be that vertical catch point, stuff like that. But I think last year was an encouraging sign for him, considering how miserable this offense and quarterback play often was.
Yeah, I'd just say, usually if he has someone, in his face there, varying those get-offs a little bit, and obviously, improving his all-around route running.
Short passing tree.
Right. We saw, the good hands, the contested catches, and thing, ability to make the catches down the field, and really use on that touchdown against the Browns, on that ball by Devlin Hodges, ability to contort his body in the end zone and make that kind of catch as well too. And in fact, even in my timeline on Twitter early this morning, even though you hate to see a guy double catch a football like what was in that game against the Colts there on that catch over on the far sideline over there, at least he had the concentration there to stick with that ball and make that catch on the sideline there. So a lot of the things that we saw with him coming out of Oklahoma State, we just need to see him get a little bit more well-rounded, especially I think with his route running and particularly his get-offs.
Yeah, and just show that, chemistry with Ben. Obviously, Ben's a lot better quarterback, but you want to make sure you have that chemistry there because that is so important. I'll have an interview with DeMarcus Ayers, former Steelers receiver. They'll either go up tomorrow or Wednesday that talks about how important that chemistry is and how that's probably more important than anything else you can do as a receiver, but build that good rapport with Big Ben. And so that'll be something new for Washington in 2020. Play Dead 0112 says, with seemingly AB retiring, I know Steelers fans are sour about how AB left, but I think he is the greatest Steelers receiver ever. In terms of talent, there's no question. To me, in my mind, he is the best. Now, where do you want to weigh that with everything off the field is a little different type of story, but the question you had posed earlier, Dave, and I think it's a really interesting one, is do you think that AB is going to be a Hall of Famer, or at least do you view him as a Hall of Famer?
If we're judging a guy just on what he did on the field and what he did on the field alone,
that's the question. How do you? Yeah, is that what your criteria is?
Well, I mean that's it's not my place to say that. Now, I believe that's what it should be. Okay, and if that's what it comes down to, then yeah. I mean, look, I was running out of superlatives to describe what this guy was doing on a weekly basis. I mean, his route running, easily the best route runner in the NFL, and really no signs of slowing down either. Just can make fantastic catches all over the field. Could do a lot of stuff after the catch as well. So yeah, I'm with Play Dead 0112 there. The greatest Steelers receiver ever. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to argue, right? Because he had five, 6 seasons in a row with over 100 catches. I mean, he was the best wide receiver in the game during that span, or during probably the second half of that span. Arguably, I know people will throw out, Hopkins and obviously Julio and a few other guys there, but man, on a week in, week out basis, you could rely on AB to make the big plays. So yeah, now whether or not his what happened and his falling out in Pittsburgh and kind of his actions off the field, we saw with Terrell Owens ended up kind of costing him initially there, right? But I mean, he got in, right? So I have. It's hard to say, Alex, but and people in the chat, but I would think at some point AB gets in because he was for more than just one season, he was arguably the best wide receiver in the NFL. And if a guy like Terrell Davis can get in, now I understand Terrell Davis had a much better off the field attitude and didn't cause issues or that we know of. He's in. So I don't see why a guy like AB won't get in initially. Will it be first ballot? I don't know. Maybe not because of his actions off the field. But I think he eventually gets in at some point.
Oh, I think that rightly or wrongly, the way it's going to go is, whenever AB does officially retire, and neither of us are convinced that he's actually retiring right now, but whenever that happens, from the time span that he retires to the time he shows up on a ballot, becomes eligible for the Hall of Fame, what is he doing? Is he quiet? Is he kind of off the radar of everybody, and he's just kind of doing his own thing, and the memories of everything that's happened over the last 18 months fade, and you begin to focus more on the player, AB? Or does he continue to do his AB crazy stuff, gets himself in more trouble, always in the spotlight and the news for the wrong reasons, and that makes it probably harder for him to get in the Hall of Fame in the minds of the voters? So I think it's kind of still up in the air on that, because while I know to the letter the Hall of Fame says just focus on the career, we know that's not always true with T.O. or with somebody who's done something serious, criminal off the field, more so than AB, like a Darren Sharper, for example. So we know in a vacuum it's not always from an on-field perspective, but I think just how AB lives his life and how much he's in the news from the time he actually retires to the time he's Hall of Fame eligible may determine if and how quickly he gets into the Hall of Fame.
Obviously, if he would have had a Super Bowl ring in there somewhere,
Hmm.
would have probably made him a little bit more of a slam dunk, I guess. But once again, I think when you go back and you look at let's say the last 3 or 4 seasons of his career, I mean. He's in the talk of the best receiver in the game during that span of time,
Sure.
without question there. And once again, I mean, uh, we should be thankful that we got to see I got to see every catch that he made, every play that he played in Pittsburgh overall. uh, what would have happened had he not had Juju not been voted team MVP? What happens?
Yeah.
You know,
All right. I mean,
does that play out any differently, or does he still end up causing an issue that leads to what this has all led to? Would he have still had the off the field? It's hard to answer that,
mhm.
obviously, but I think if you just try to get past the bias of how things ended with him in Pittsburgh and just look at the span of years that he was in Pittsburgh, it's hard to vote against him being a potential Hall of Famer in my opinion.
Sure. From an on-field perspective, there should be no argument. Literally, his first touch in the NFL was a touchdown, that kick return, a little reverse they had against Tennessee. So it's just a matter of the off the field and how you weigh it. My guess, my gut right now says, yeah, he probably will get in at some point. And from an on-field perspective, there's no argument he deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. Nick
Man,
says,
if he could have stayed, if he could have kind of stayed on the straight and narrow, I mean, there was, could he have been the next Jerry Rice? I mean, it's
mhm,
hard to play that long in the NFL and probably put up the kind of numbers that Jerry Rice, had obviously during his career. But I still think AB right now has a couple of seasons probably left in him,
sure.
higher quality seasons. But whether or not we will find that out, to be determined.
Yeah, to be determined with a lot of things AB related. Nick asks, hope both Yins are living good. Even though there's no fans, are we going to see any videos or anything of the sort out of training camp this season? I'm pretty skeptical of it. I don't think we're going to see a whole lot. We'll see a little bit. I mean, a normal training camp, I think, Vincent, cameras from media are allowed for the warm-up sessions, some of the individual sessions. Anytime this guy's competing, anytime there's any even just one-on-one offense, defense, receiver, cornerback, whatever, and certainly for team drills, you're not allowed to do any kind of footage, photos or video. And I know there's going to be even more restrictions this year on what the media are able to report, which is very little. So I think the information out of camp will be minimal, unfortunately, this year.
Boy, this is going to be like being on a desert island and
Yeah.
coming across a Ritz cracker or something.
It's an Eddie Murphy joke in there somewhere.
Yeah, there is an Eddie Murphy joke
That's a
in there.
saltine. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, we'll be licking our fingers for every little morsel.
Yeah.
I have no idea what we're going to get out of training camp. Obviously, if anything that comes from the team will be highly scrubbed,
Hmm.
if you will. We're going to be, Alex and I, and really anybody on the outside, are going to be flying blind through a lot of this. And it looks like, if I'm reading this report right, Alex, coming across from Adam Schefter on Twitter right now, NFL offered the NFLPA today to play 0 preseason games this summer. So we'll have to see
So
if that
that's the NFL offering the union that.
NFL
Okay.
offered now they probably I tell you what they're doing. They're offering that in lieu of probably trying to get the players to take some sort of
Hmm.
hit
Oh yeah.
in the salary cap next year. So uh, we'll see if this comes to fruition here. So even if we get just one preseason game, I think, which was kind of the scuttlebutt earlier today, that's not going to be a lot for us to go on when it comes
No.
to thinking 53, bottom end of the 53-man roster and those kind of things there. So anything we get, we'll say, thank you, sir. May I have another?
What the concern though is, a little bit of knowledge is a dangerous thing, and how we're gonna have to wrestle with that little bit of info, and God only knows how some of this stuff will get framed by the media based on one report that's probably unverifiable. So yeah, it's gonna be very weird. I don't think it's gonna be a whole lot of information. The only reason why there was a lot of information at training camp at Latrobe was because they were so Because okay, fair enough. I mean, I was going to be more humble about it, so I appreciate you being my entourage there. But yeah, because fans could tweet about it, because I could write up the whole practice report, so media was able to do more. You're going to see it It's going to be like during the season, and how much should we learn about practice during the season? Not a whole lot. So yeah, going to be very weird.
The thing is, I've never been to a training camp practice, but I've worked with you long enough over the years that you paint a good picture, and I know enough about your football IQ that I trust your eyes.
Mhm.
So, a lot of what I was able to gather from training camp, mixed along with what I watched during every preseason, gave me all the info I felt that I needed in making good speculation. Now, obviously, everything we speculate, it doesn't come to fruition or isn't always right. But I'd like to think that we had a good idea of roster top to bottom, and now we're just not going to get that regardless of the amount of information that we get from whatever sources moving forward this summer.
And there was video, not that I took video, but fans would just take video and give out a couple highlights, which at least gave some look at training camp too. So not a whole lot. I think there was a report that roster size should be determined by tomorrow, if it's going to be 90 or 80. And so I hope it's still 90. I don't know if it's going to stay there though.
Yeah, we'll see. They still got a lot. I mean, I know they've got some of this testing kind of maybe figured out here, but we've still got a lot to learn here.
Yeah, and not a whole lot of time, because didn't rookies for the Texans and Chiefs report today, or that tomorrow?
It's tomorrow, it's any time now,
yeah,
I think, right?
It's real quick. If it's tomorrow, it might as well be today, because we're only a couple hours away. So, yeah, a lot of information still, unfortunately, that we have just don't know right now. PlayDad0112 says, "Hey Dave, just wanted to say I love your countdown highlights you do every day, and it's awesome." So Dave, that's your countdown to the season. Some really cool stuff there. I think Mike Wallace found one of yours today.
Yeah, Mike Wallace today, the long touchdown against the Browns. What was that? 2010, right?
Let me go ahead and pull it up here.
That guy could hit some home runs. He might have been a one-trick pony, but that was one hell of a trick, wasn't it?
Yeah. It worked well enough. Speed kills in the NFL for sure. Let me try to find that play for you guys down on your timeline here a little bit. But yeah, cool one. Cool. I like the series for sure. And what's tomorrow's? Do we have a teaser for tomorrow?
I don't have it picked out yet. I usually do those later in the evening there.
Gotcha. I'm trying to find where it was at. Maybe I scrolled past it. I know.
I got a bunch of nonsense in there, don't I?
There's a lot of tweets. There we go. We found it. All right, so there you go. 56 yarders. What year was this?
I think that was 2010, wasn't it?
Okay.
2010 or 2011.
So there you go for you guys there. All right, question coming in from Kenneth Jackson. Again, be sure to leave your Steelers questions in the chat below. Dave and I will answer every single question before 8 p.m. Kenneth says, "Hey guys, did you believe that the team ever had any intention of signing Dupree to a long-term deal? Seems like they could next year with Ben's money off the books." Right. Well, Ben's still going to be under contract through 2021. Make a decision on Dupree before then. I'm sure they had an intention, would have liked to sign Dupree, but because of the cost of it and because it's just the financial uncertainty right now of where the cap's going to be at, it probably just didn't make a whole lot of sense to commit right now. I think you're only going to commit to the elite of the elite, the Mahomes of the world, the Haywards of the world, and Dupree just did not fall in that category.
Yeah, it's tough. We have to take Kevin Colbert at face value, what he said. And look, and once you place the franchise tag on a guy, the player is going to expect at least to be paid that, as an average yearly value, if not more. You'd have to think Dupree, as I wrote earlier in the offseason, probably had his sights set on, around 18 million per, give or take, right around in there. Also, guaranteed money with the Steelers is usually just a signing bonus and virtual guaranteed money in the first year's salary, the way they do these big contracts. He's probably willing to bet on himself, talking about Dupree, hopefully turn in another great season in 2020, and then, cash in a lot larger next year. He's got the tag in his back pocket this year. Now we're just waiting on to see, is that tag amount going to be almost 16 or a few million more than that, depending on the outcome of his grievance there. So were they ever close? Who knows?
I kind of doubt it. I don't think it ever got serious at the end.
Probably not. There was probably no last minute
Right.
contract exchanged. The two sides probably knew where each other were probably more than a month ago.
Yeah, because Dupree filed the grievance the day before the deadline,
We don't know. That's when
or
it was
reported.
reported.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't know. I mean, well, we don't know exactly when. Maybe could it very well been a couple of days before the franchise the deadline to get him signed to an extension? Sure, it could have. But for me to sit here and say I know exactly when he filed the grievance, I don't know that.
Right, but we obviously it was no later than when it was reported, and so there was once he filed the grievance, that was the admission that there was really no expectation of a deal happening. So I don't expect there to be. I think on July 15th there was really no conversation about a long-term deal. The way that there was with Derrick Henry getting his deal done, Chris Jones and Dak nearly getting that deal done. So I think the 15th was a very quiet day for the Steelers front office in relation to Bud Dupree and his agent. All right, let's go back to the questions here. Mark Leslie, hypothetically speaking, if the season did happen to be canceled for whatever reason, do you have any plans on how you would fill the site podcast if the worst was to happen? God, I hope we don't have to actually entertain that idea, Mark. I don't know. I mean, we would just try to find something the way that baseball and basketball and hockey sites have been able to find stuff to talk about, kind of what we're doing right now during the off season, but really hope that does not happen.
Hope it doesn't happen, but if it does, we'll figure out something. We always do. So
Yep.
the guys are good and creative, and might be a lot of 2019 college tape.
Yeah,
but we'll figure out something.
Yeah, I know I'm already running out of ideas, so I really hope that does not happen. But they're going to try to play. They're at least going to go to camp. I think they're at least try to get to the early parts of the season, and we'll take it from there. Nick says, if I'm not mistaken, weren't A.B. Wallace, Hines, Sanders, and Holmes all on the same roster in 2010? Imagine when that could have been. Yeah, you had A.B., Sanders, Wallace, the Young Money crew. I mean, that was a really good trio that we did not get to see for very long, unfortunately. But yeah, very talented crew there. All right, that's the questions for now. Again, be sure to leave a question in the chat. As some Pirates just hit a home run. Who is that? Will Craig Evans? I'm not quite sure, but Pirates are up 2-0 for you guys not able to watch.
We're going to get some play-by-play here or what?
That's what we got. We got a half hour to kill here, Dave. Yeah, Phillip Evans 1-yard, 2-run shot up in the top of the second inning. There we go. K. Jackson, Pittsburgh says, hey guys, do you have any insight on what the Steelers' plan will be on Ben's replacement? Unless Mason Rudolph shows drastic improvement. That quarterback is not currently on the roster. Aaron Rodgers a possibility. LOL. No, I mean, I think that they're going to still look at Rudolph and try to look at his evaluation and how much he's grown from a very difficult 2019. Is Rudolph really going to be the heir? Probably not at this point, though I'm not going to write that book right now because let's just see what he's able to do and whatever action he gets this upcoming season. But to your point, probably someone in college right now, if I had to guess who that eventual attempted heir is going to be.
And barring them drafting early, in 2020, which who knows what the draft's going to look like, right? As we sit here right now, or what the college football season is going to look like, or heck, what even the NFL season is going to look like right now. But barring them drafting, top 10, 12, 13, right around in there, I've said this all off season, and I will be shocked if they draft a quarterback in the first round, period. As we sit here right now. Now, obviously that can change. Look, we're probably not going to learn a lot. Well, the Steelers might during training camp, or should, during training camp, learn a lot more about Mason Rudolph. But other than that, the hope is that us as fans don't have to learn too much about Mason Rudolph this coming season here. If we do, then something's probably gone horribly wrong, other than a couple of kneel downs or some mop up duty or something along those lines there. So, yeah, I mean, are the odds against Mason Rudolph being that guy right now? Yeah, absolutely. But, things change, so we'll have to wait and see. I don't think, there was some speculation, I think, at the end of last week, people talk about Dak Prescott and, what's going to happen there, even if Dak gets back-to-back franchise tags. Even so, as Alex and I said on the podcast, I think the other day, the odds of Dak becoming your franchise quarterback, in I guess it'd be 2022 are very slim, just from look, if he flourishes in Dallas these next two seasons on back-to-back tags, he's going to command super big money, and the Steelers just aren't. I don't view them being in that market. On the flip side, if he flounders in Dallas the next 2 years, what's his do you really want that as kind of be the only way I see a guy like Dak Prescott landing in Pittsburgh in 2022 would be as a cheap veteran backup.
Yeah, which I don't find very likely scenario of happening. I think Dak's going to stay in Dallas. They were very close to working out a deal at the end of this tag deadline. I think that every Dallas beat writer seems to indicate that he's probably going to be retained as a Cowboy at some point in his career on a long-term deal. So, yeah, the other issue with Rudolph is that, even the stuff that you learn early on in camp, in any preseason and practice and stuff like that will have quickly, have diminishing returns because – you would expect Rudolph to look good in training camp, in practice, in any preseason action he gets because he's gone through the regular season Sunday football. So this should seem like a cakewalk to him. So you'll be able to check that box, hopefully, pretty quickly. If you can't, then that's a big problem. But if you can, then you check that box. But then you say, well, he's looking good in these moments, these low-pressure environments, but now we really can't judge him until he gets back in the regular season action in a Sunday game. So even with Rudolph, you'll learn a little bit, but that value will go away, I think, pretty quickly.
And Rudolph's already in his third season, right?
Mm-hmm.
Going into his third season here. So, assuming Ben plays out his deal, Rudolph's contract will be up after the rookie contract will be up after the after next season, right?
Right.
So, odds are probably you're not going to sign him before that ends,
right.
So you would have to get in a position where you were comfortable, probably placing the franchise tag or a transition tag on Rudolph if you felt that good. And once again, what we're hoping for, at least as fans, is that we don't have to see Rudolph take another snap other than preseason snaps, from here on out. So. Yeah, obviously the odds are against him. As far as what their plan is, man, it's just so far out right now. But once again, I will be surprised if the Steelers draft now, might they draft like another third round quarterback, next year? It's obviously possible. But no, I do not think they'll spend, as I said here right now, I do not think they'll spend a first round draft pick on a quarterback in 2021.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the likely odds are that as long as Ben is here, you're going to draft to surround Ben with as much talent as possible. So maybe if Ben's able to give him a heads up, like, hey, guys, before next year's draft, like I think 2021 is going to be my final year, maybe that would change the plans. But just hard to say right now, unfortunately. Nick says, the Pirates winning a game. I suppose the world is really ending. Don't worry, Nick. They'll blow the lead. They blew the lead in the first game. They'll do it again. All will be right with the world. David O asks, who is your favorite all-time Steeler not named Cheaty, and why? Unfair to give me that exemption. David, I go old school with Big Daddy Lipscomb. Him and Ernie Stautner for a very short time, a very powerful interior duo of couple D tackles. Big Daddy was one of the first true big guys, 6'6", 300 pounds, could really run, and a really amazing athlete for his era, and a lot of fun to watch. A crazy story, a lot of up and downs, and a tragic end to his life, unfortunately. Heroin reported overdose, but Big Daddy Lipscomb, one of my favorite guys. Dave, what about you?
Man, I'm a child of the '70s, and I wanted to be the Coca-Cola kid, getting that jersey from Mean Joe Green. Man, some of my earliest memories, Mean Joe Green and Jack Lambert, obviously. Now you want to talk kind of more modern Steelers through the years. I was a big Lawrence Timmons fan.
Okay.
I really just like Lawrence Timmons, the player. Lawrence Timmons, Lawrence Timmons never caused, no issues with the team. And obviously Heath Miller, this saying, no nonsense kind of players that left it all out there on the field. Didn't really have much to say once they got off the field. Really enjoyed watching, glad to say I got to watch every snap of, that Lawrence Timmons played in the NFL and every snap that Heath Miller played. So yeah, those would be modern guys, and obviously I've enjoyed being able to watch Ben Roethlisberger in his entire career as well too. So many.
Yeah, Lawrence Timmons in the news a little bit earlier, I think last month, in late June, made a $500,000 donation to his alma mater, Wilson High School in South Carolina. So very generous there from Lawrence Timmons, the Law Dog. Nero the King. Hey, fellas, just want to say I really appreciate you guys leaving the politics out of your show. As someone who deals with it on a day-to-day basis, I really love that you guys are an escape for me. Thank you, Nero the King. Yeah, we try to be just as sports-centric and focused as possible. Of course, there is going to be overlap with some of the political and more controversial, I guess, landscape of the world, but we just try to be Steelers-focused for you guys and be an escape over a very difficult last few months for so many people. K. Jackson, Pittsburgh, follow-up. Did the Steelers make a mistake by not signing Cam Newton or Winston to a team-friendly deal? So we knew the Steelers were not going to sign a quarterback. They said that from day one. I mean, when Mike Tomlin had his year-end press conference saying that Mason's going to be the backup in 2020. But putting that reality aside, do you think they should have gone after one of those quarterbacks who ultimately signed a pretty cheap deal?
Personally, no. But on top of it, let's say they would have signed one of those guys. Kevin Colbert was not going to. Now, obviously, Winston's 1-year deal ended up being uber cheap.
It's incentive laden, right?
Right, a lot cheaper than Newton's. But Kevin Colbert was not going to sign these guys to just 1-year higher dollar deals, and not even the money that Cam Newton got, the max value with him in those type situations. And this is just supposing that they even, which I don't believe they even probably made an offer to either of those guys. But if they did, he, because of cap purposes and because of wanting to lock these guys up he would, if it was going to be a 2-year deal at a minimum, neither one of those guys were going to want to sit at a near minimum deal for 2 years. They just weren't. These guys wanted to go somewhere where they had the best opportunity to potentially play. Cam Newton, an obvious fit with the Patriots, and with Jameis. Look, you got a guy in Breeze. Breeze. How much longer does he have? But you're probably going to have an opportunity to maybe play a few snaps there. I just never. I haven't spent a lot of time even thinking about it because right from the get-go, I knew that they weren't going to sign a quarterback. So I have not really given it much mind, and I've really laughed at the week in, week out. The Steelers should sign Jameis Winston. The Steelers should sign Cam Newton, Andy Dalton, Joe Flacco. I mean, go down the list. We knew it was not going to happen.
Yeah, I'm with you. I never really entertained the idea too much, and there is certainly merit to the argument of, well, you got to give Rudolph more reps, more opportunity to see if he can bounce back, or if last year's version is about the best you're going to get from Mason Rudolph. And if you sign a veteran guy, then you're probably never going to find that out with Mason Rudolph. But to the question, and I'll ask you this, Dave, do you trust Mason Rudolph as a team's backup quarterback?
Here's the thing. Hopefully we don't have to find out. But if he has to play a considerable amount of time in 2020 and he just does not deliver, then oh boy, does that look bad on it'll be easy to go back and play the woulda, coulda, shoulda. Kevin Colbert messed up bad in this. So yeah, Kevin Colbert's got a lot right on this, because look, even I think in ESPN's article about ranking the Steelers, over the next 3 years where they sit as a franchise there, they got dinged quite heavily on the quarterback rating, right?
Yep.
And that's not surprising. You have Ben Roethlisberger at his age coming off the elbow injury. You have insert quarterback here who played last year, did not play well overall. So yeah, I mean, it's going to be easy to backseat drive as this season progresses if Ben Roethlisberger misses time and Rudolph has to come in and play and does not play well. So I don't know. I know that's kind of backdooring the question there, but I mean, it's the only way we're going to find out if Kevin Colbert was right or wrong here.
Right. Again, that's the argument of you got to play Rudolph to see if he can improve, or is that the only opportunity people think he should get? Let's make it even just less significant and just say it's a game or two where Ben's out or gets COVID or something. Do you trust Rudolph for even a short-term span?
It depends on the opponent, I think,
That's not a big vote of confidence for Rudolph.
I mean, look, you're going to have better defenses than other ones.
But if that's how you're evaluating the quarterback confidence,
you would expect him to be able to come in and finish or win you a game.
Is that what you expect?
Yes, that's
Okay.
what I expect.
Okay, yeah, that's what it comes down to. I'm very much up in the air. I don't know if he's going to make a jump. I mean, I obviously would expect some level of improvement, and last year was turbulent. Just having a healthier roster around him should be helpful, and all the experience and all the trials and tribulations he went through last year. But can this guy take care of the football? And we haven't seen that, and that's the number one thing that guy, whoever that backup is, has to do if they have to come in on short notice, is take care of the football. This defense is good enough where if you just play fundamental football, you got a good chance to be in the game to win the game. And Rudolph and Duck and anyone else did not show that ability last year. And I don't know if that's going to change or not.
There's not going to be any excuses for Kevin Colbert whatsoever if a guy like Mace Rudolph has to come in however many games, half a game, 4 games, whatever, and does not deliver. It'll be all in his lap,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so roll the dice.
Yeah.
It is. Good question. Let's see. Charles Crowder. If the Steelers can get the ball to Deontay Johnson in space, can you two see him as a top 10 receiver in yards? I don't know how many yards that would be to be on that top 10 level. I'd have to look that up. There was a concern about they're probably not going to throw the ball at 2018 type levels, 650 plus times. I think the weapons will be spread around enough where maybe no one's going to have the gaudy type numbers that AB of course, did. I think he could be on that cusp because he's the X receiver. The offense is going to get flowed through him so much. The X guy gets tagged so much and can be the first read so many times. But top 10, not probably so much in 2020, but maybe by next year you're getting close to that category, especially if Juju's gone.
I think the kind of the number to see if he can hit is 1,000 because I think that'll be pretty monumental. What is it? 13, 14 different wide receivers in Steelers history have hit the 1,000-yard receiving mark there. So that to me is the big can he number. Can he hit? And I think there's obviously there's an outside. I think he has a decent shot at being 1,000-yard receiver. Obviously going to have to stay healthy,
right.
All season to do that. He's got the ability to do it. Will he see enough balls and will he have enough of the deep passing in there to help kind of offset those 3 for 60 games?
Well, 60 yards per game gets you to 1,000. You do 16 of those.
Okay, well, maybe a little bit less, or the 3 for 30. Let's put it that way.
What would be top 10? I'm trying to look it up on my phone right now. What did the number 10 receiver have in yards last year? Are you able to pull that up quickly, Dave?
Yeah, I'll pull that up here in a minute.
Just because I'd be curious to know what the numbers. Yeah, I agree. I think 1,000. Let's get him to 1,000 first, because I'm sure obviously below 1,000 is not going to be top 10 level. But is it 1,000? Is it 12? Oh, probably not 1,200. Is it 1,100? Probably right around. I'm guessing 1,100 yards is the 10 spot. Is probably my guess to the answer to that question. I don't know
let's
for
see
sure.
Stats leaders, NFL receiving regular season would have been. Let's see. Michael Thomas, 1,700 led the league. What do you want to know? Top 10
number. What was number 10? How many yards did the number 10?
Number 10 was Jarvis Landry at 1,174 yards.
So right around 1,100, I said. So yeah, can he get that? I think that's pushing it for 2020. To be honest with you.
If he hits that, I'd be ecstatic.
Oh yeah, I mean that probably means obviously excellent season. Probably means that Ben stayed healthy, which good things on both front there. Nightwolf, Alex, what is your opinion on our corner depth? Hayden is due for another injury, knock on wood. I'm not sure about him being due. I don't think that's really how it works. I was obviously thrilled he could stay healthy last year. With Justin Lane, I mean, yeah, there's a concern there. I mean, I was not crazy about Justin Lane when they picked him. I know his rookie year, he got thrown into that fire in that first game against Tampa Bay. He was underclassman coming out, pretty raw to the position of former receiver when he started his Spartans career. But I had a lot of concerns. Guys that were with hip stiffness and not great long speed, I think is a bit of a difficult and troublesome, worrisome combination. So some worries there, but other than that, I mean, I like obviously Hayden Nelson, and then with Cam Sutton. I think should be the top backup outside corner ahead of Justin Lane. If it was me, I don't know if the team's going to agree with that or not. So if they play Sutton on the outside as the backup, I'm happy. If not, there's obviously some unknowns there with Justin Lane. Jose Eduardo Rivero, do you think the Steelers defense can be one of the best defenses in the NFL in the next 4 years? I mean, 4 years feels like an eternity to try to project out, look where this defense was 4 years ago. But to the point about where they could be 2020, yeah, I think this defense has every expectation and reason to believe they're no worse than top 5 and can compete to be the best defense in the NFL in 2020. All the pieces are there. All the investment is there. And this is probably the best time to probably be the best version of this defense, because after the season, you may be losing some pieces like guys like Bud Dupree, and worry about the future of someone like Joe Hayden, how much longer they'll be the player they are today. So this should be the best version of the Steelers defense, and it should be a very good version at that.
Yeah, it should be. I'll be disappointed if they're not top three in my magical adjusted net yards for passing attempt stat. And if they do that and are able to play the run anywhere close to the way they played it last season, albeit they did give up some big plays at some bad times. Most memorably against the Seahawks in that game, Anthony Chicklow. But look, I mean, the expectations should be high for this defense, plain and simple. This should be one of the league's top 1, 2, or 3 defenses, and I'm counting it on being number 1 or number 2. I'll be very disappointed if it's not.
I'm with you. Nero the King, as a diehard Steelers fan and a diehard Penn State fan, how awesome would it be to see Pat Freiermuth in black and gold? Then we can get rid of every tight end under contract. Hey, I'm all for investing in tight end. I beat that drum pretty good during the draft season. I understand why they didn't, because the tight end class was not great, but I'm all for investing in that position because I think it's been neglected in the draft for far too long. Cameron Wright, go Dave and Alex. You guys do an amazing job. Amazing. Salute. Thank you very much, Cameron. Too kind for you to say.
Thank you.
K. Jackson, Pittsburgh. What kind of offense do you expect the Steelers to run this year with Ben coming off an injury? Do you believe they will try to become more balanced? Yeah, I think it'll be, not anything radically different with Ben. Obviously, it's still Ben and Feet are working together against some more pre-snap motion potentially, and just not throwing it as often, hopefully, like they did 2 years ago. That'll probably be ideal for Ben.
Yeah, I don't think you hope that the defense is good enough and putting the offense in good situations. And there's a couple of late leads throughout the season that we're not looking at a situation where Ben has to throw for 350 or 500 yards in a game along those lines. Look, I mean, obviously you don't necessarily have to run more, but as we always say, you just need to be able to run more successful more often. And generally, if you're running good early in games, and then also if you're able to convert, red zone opportunities, which we think should be back in much better positive territory this year as opposed to last year, then you're going to probably have opportunities to run later in the games. And if you can do that and hold on to the football, look, I mean, go back to that San Francisco game last year. How big was that fumble by James Conner? Do they win that game if even if that drive stalls, and able to punt it away?
Yes.
Do they win that game?
Yes, I think they do, because that defense was playing unbelievable. Like, it forced 5 takeaways. They win that game.
So they should be able to. We think they should be able to run better. At least we hope that's going to be the case. And if so, and look, I mean, if you have James Conner healthy, and if you're able to maybe mix in Anthony McFarland Jr. and get some of that speed and playmaking ability, throughout the season, and the receivers stay healthy, I think they'll be fine. I do think that Ben getting the ball out quickly, all of the way he did 2018. I think you'll see a lot of that again. But on the flip side, as we said, obviously the deep ball wasn't there last season for the Steelers. And if you go back to 2018, that first half of the 2018 season, for whatever reason, Wi-Fi was not connecting and the deep ball wasn't there. Now it got better second half of the season there. But if Ben throughout from start of the season on can have a, let's say, 45% completion rate on throws of more than 20 yards down the field, I think they're going to be fine. It's going to force defenses to kind of respect that. And you think Deontay Johnson's going to be another year, make a step in his second year, and Washington should improve a little bit. And obviously having Juju back and potentially maybe being somewhere close to the Juju that he was in 2018, they should be fine, I think.
All right, there you go. T. Davis, will the Steelers sign Kaepernick? No, I don't think there's any chance they sign Colin Kaepernick. I don't think there's any chance they sign any veteran quarterback unless there's some sort of catastrophic injury. Jamal Curtis, Alex, who do you have more confidence in, Deontay Johnson or James Washington? And you're not going to get me on this one, Jamal. You do this every week. you got somebody else in the chat. You didn't get me. Deontay, if your question is sincere, I go Deontay. I think that guy's going to be a potential star in this league. I think Washington still has some more to prove and does not have the upside of Deontay Johnson. Desmond Barnes, if Connor has a healthy and good season, do you see the Steelers signing to another contract? No. I think even in a good season, that probably just dries up his price tag too much with so many other free agents for this team has to sign. Again, Juju, Filer, Villanueva, Banner, Hilton, Sutton. The list goes on and on. Connor, just because of Dave's term, the fungibility of the position, the investments in Snell, McFarland going back to the draft in 2021. I see 2020 as James Conner's last year in black and gold, regardless of how it goes, good or bad.
I agree.
Jamal Curtis, Alex, I say you should add to your YouTube where you react to TV shows like Game of Thrones episodes with Dave and analyze them. If we get real desperate, if there's that cancellation, maybe we'll do that of the season, but I don't think that'll be in the cards, Jamal. Sean Mays, thoughts about these preseason games being canceled and how much do you think it will affect players' play? Well, I was just thinking about this a second ago, Dave, is that let's assume the union accepts the apparent reported proposal of no preseason games. At that point, I guess you might as well not even need 90 guys on the roster. You might as well just do an 80-man roster because the injury risk is is significantly decreased at that point. So you probably play with 80 at that point. So the first thing it would mean is potentially a lot of job loss out of the gate with 10 guys, each team 320 players losing their job, which would be I think unfortunate, obviously. From there, how much do you think it affects their play? Yeah, I differ with the union in a little bit of the ramp up sense because obviously they're pushing for no games because they want guys to ramp up and have time to get acclimated, which I'm all for. But we'll talk about ramp ups. Could you imagine going from playing your first game, it's going to be a regular season game, in months, the first one you come back to is when it counts. And for rookies and young guys, that is a ramp up that's probably, I think, asking a bit too much.
Yeah, I'm going to open up this window. I'm going to jump out of it, right?
oh my goodness. I don't know. I disagree. I think there should be 2 preseason games. I don't think I'm not going to get my wish.
Yeah, I mean, look, you know me. I wish there were 5.
Yeah.
I wish there were 8 preseason.
You want to go back to 1973 when they had 8 of those things.
Because I love watching football. I love watching preseason football. I love watching the 90th guy on the roster get snapped. I mean, and I know you do too, and I know that's a point that you're going to make. But
even practically, just in the ramp up argument, I think that you need preseason to be part of your ramp up.
They say if you have 2 quarterbacks, you don't have none. Well, if you have 2 or less,
it's better than 0 quarterbacks. I don't know.
I don't know, Alex.
Because you're going from crawling to running. From training camp, which will be eased in. Look, I think it should be eased in. But you want to tell Chase Claypool and rookies, okay, your first game is Monday night against the Giants. Good luck with it.
Yeah, but how much, If you had just one game, why not just play all? I just let it be rookie day, But we'll see what happens. I don't want to get my hopes up either way on this. We've already today. I think we've gone from maybe 2 to 1 to maybe none. So.
I think it's going to be 1 at best. I think it's probably going to be 0. If the NFL is proposing that, I know it probably comes with some carrots and sticks there, but probably going to be 0. Anyway, let's see. Jason Robinson, Alex, missed a question. I think I did miss a question here. The infamous Tim, if you were the Steelers GM, would you look to find Big Ben's replacement now? Would you stick to Mason Rudolph? We talked about this earlier in the chat. It's still to be determined. We'll see what Rudolph is able to do, if anything, during the season. Just really not sure right now. Jason Robinson, Alex, I'm curious, how can you have seen football games from the 40s, but not a movie from the 80s? Well, one's football, one is not. I'm just not a movie guy. I don't know. I guess I just focus on football a little bit. Let's see. Any other questions? We're getting some real comedians here in the chat. And Mark says, thank you very much. He says, just wanted to say thanks again for the book. That was James Conner book. Less than 2 weeks it took to arrive. So, Mark, glad you got the book.
And I think who won it last week? Geno?
Mutated Genome won it last week.
I think that went out Friday or Saturday, went out in the mail. So hopefully he'll be getting it soon.
All right. And last question we'll do of the chat here again from K. Jackson, Pittsburgh. Actually, Sean Mays has a question. We'll get to that after this. But any chance the Steelers will try to trade for Marcus May? If so, what would be a reasonable pick you would offer the Jets? I would offer a 6th. Maybe I could twist my arm for a 5th. So I don't think they have a 5th because that was traded in the Wormley deal. But a 6th would be ideal for Marcus May. And I think they should definitely explore adding some veteran safety depth. May is the, I think, most sensible option, but could be somebody else.
Yeah, the thing is, I think that guy's going to be in somewhat of demand if indeed he is put on the market there. So yeah, I think the Steelers should look into it. No, whether or not they're that comes to fruition, they're able to land them. We'll see. But obviously with 32 teams in the league, it's easy to bet that it won't happen. But he should. To me, he's the only guy really right now that we've identified that they should look into if indeed he puts in is put on the trade market.
Yeah, because depth is very poor, and of course, there's always going to be the COVID concerns that expose depth potentially as well. Last question of the live stream comes from Sean Mays. Do you believe they will increase the roster size, and by how much, if so? No, like I said, I think they'll probably either keep it the same at 90 or decrease it to 80, especially if there's no preseason, be less compelling, and basically if there's no preseason, if you're 81 through 90, your chances of making the roster are already very slim. Unfortunately, still practice squad hope, which why I think they should keep it at 90, but I do not see any chance of an increase. If anything, it'll be decreased from 90 to 80. Report is we'll know about that tomorrow.
Hopefully.
Yeah, we've said that a lot, unfortunately, so far.
Yeah,
I know.
We're going on 2 weeks. I thought a lot of this stuff would be.
Are you mad that they're waiting this long? Because I got some pushback about that the other day. I'm frustrated by it. It's frustrated, I should say.
It's par for the course.
Yeah,
because they're strong arm. It should have been settled 2 weeks ago. Am I surprised that it's not? Am I mad that it's not? I mean, look, all that's going on right now. No, I'll get happy in the same pair of pants. To the same degree, maybe that I'm mad, but you just want to know some of these things ahead of time so you can educate yourself on them, and then you can turn around and maybe help educate some people on it, as well too, instead of last minute try to think and then try to figure it out while training camp's getting underway. So I'll get over it. I just wish that they would have had a lot of this put to bed couple of weeks ago.
I'm with you. I'll get over it too. The argument of, well, you couldn't do anything before because things might change. Well, if the goal was you can't have a plan in place until you know that things won't change, then you'll never have a plan in place. Like, this season could end at some point. Like, they could cancel and stop the season. So that's not a good excuse because everything's under the subject to change, heading, regardless of when you get that agreement done.
I'm going to be maddest throughout this whole thing is if the players end up giving in on the revenue side of things this year, and then it creates a situation where the cap has to go down X amount next year, and then they're going to wipe out a large portion of middle class players throughout the league. Right. That goes against every fiber of what the NFLPA really wants. Is their veterans and their middle class. They don't want a have and a have not league. Okay. They want the middle class players in the league. And if they give in to any degree now when it comes to lost revenue in 2020, it's going to cost them to some degree in the middle class of their players. And that's just not once again, it's not what the NFLPA wants to their core. I know that's not the case. So if they give in to any aspect of that, shame on them.
Yeah, I agree. Just it's the number one thing this union cannot allow to happen for the players' sake and benefit. All right, Dave, that's going to do it for our live stream. Thank you, chat, for being here. Thank you, everybody who asked questions. We will be back next Monday, 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern with Training Camp Eve will be actually our next live stream. So, Dave, thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure, and everybody was in there tonight. Thank you for coming, and peace and love, peace and love.
All right, guys, be sure to check out an archive of this stream. If you missed it, you can find that wherever you find the Steelers Depot Terrible Podcast. Also find it on Steelers Depot. We'll have our Terrible Podcast tomorrow as well. So thank you guys for being here, asking questions, and we'll